Hi, thanks for watching. This is Jessie, and I am going to be reviewing Stolen Tongues by Felix Blackwell. I did pick this up because Mike over on Mike's Book Reviews is reading it for his spooky season. I hadn't heard of it before, but it sounded interesting, so I did pick that up to read. And I was not disappointed. I loved this book for the first 3/4 of the book. Stick with me. So the beginning shows Felix and his girlfriend Faye. They are pet sitting for some friends while their friends are away. And there's a dog and there's a bird. I believe it's a white parrot or white cockatoo named Carrot. So Carrot the parrot. Well, this bird is talking to someone. And they've had this bird for a long time. And so Felix knows his friend's bird. He knows what the bird is doing when it says certain phrases. And so it's saying knock knock throughout the night, indicating that somebody's about to knock on the door. And then it's saying other things, and it really freaks them out. And they end up taking the dog and the bird and leaving, and then returning the animals to their friends later. The bird never talks again, and it's creepier than I'm giving it credit for the beginning. Later, Felix and Faye, they get engaged, and Faye's parents give them use of their cabin up in Pale Peak, which is in Colorado. And so they go to celebrate their engagement at this cabin out in Pale Peak, and initially, like, the very first thing that happens is Felix sees what he thinks is a dream catcher up in the trees, and almost immediately, like the very first night, things start happening. They are hearing somebody walking through the snow, but every time Felix goes out there, there's nobody there. They're hearing a child laughing. They're hearing whispers. It's just a whole bunch of different stuff that's going on. And so they kind of try to stick it out for a day. They do call the local sheriff or warden or whoever's out there, who tells them that they had some complaints of some kids possibly playing some pranks out there. So they kind of chalk it up to that for a minute. It doesn't really convince them, but they want to believe that that's what's happening. So they stay another night, and it is snowing so hard. It wasn't, according to the forecast, it wasn't supposed to snow a lot, but it did. It snowed and snowed and snowed, and it actually snowed in their car. And at some point, Felix looks outside, and he sees a man standing at the tree line, just looking up into the trees. And he goes out there, and it feels like something's luring him into the woods. And so he turns around, he goes back inside. He goes out a couple times during the night. And at one point, I believe Faye had gone to the bathroom, but Felix thought that she had gone outside. And so he goes outside, and he sees her on top of their car. But then Faye's talking to him from the cabin. He turns around, he kind of hightails it back to the cabin. So she calls her dad to come pick them up, and he does. Like the dad, the ranger, they come and they get them, and they take them down the mountain. They basically leave all their stuff there. They just grab their bags, whatever was in their bags, and they leave. And they go back home. And Felix is trying to figure out what is going on. Faye's parents are suddenly acting really weird. He asks some questions about the cabin, and they're kind of evading some things. But there's a suggestion that they knew that something weird was going on. And when they go home, Faye is talking in her sleep, and she's sleepwalking. And this isn't new for Faye. But the intensity of it is, like, she doesn't normally sleepwalk every night. She doesn't normally talk in her sleep every night. It's not an every night occurrence, but now it is. It's happening. And it gets to the point where it sounds like Faye is having a conversation, and Felix, he hears her one-sided conversation, and it sounds like something in her dream is trying to get information about Felix. And they keep asking her questions about her life, and it seems to be trying to get to something. And then Felix sees the man from the Pale Peak. He sees the man at the tree line by where they live, and he runs after the man. I can't remember exactly what happened the first time he ran after him, but he goes back to his house, and it's really creepy. At this point, Faye has started to walk around their house in like a zombie shamble, and her eyes are rolled in the back of her head, and she's getting meaner, and it just goes from there. And at some point, Felix does leave Faye in the care of two of his friends. Three of his friends, actually. Two of the friends were the couple with the bird, and then another one of their friends. She was staying at the house with the couple with the bird, but then she wanted to go home, so all three of the friends had gone and stayed at Felix and Faye's house while Felix went back to Pale Peak to try to find some information. And he talks to the ranger, who refers him to a native named T-Way. And T-Way and his son Nathan come and they talk to Felix. And he's not really forthcoming with too much information, but he does say, okay, well, let me look into this. Let me refer you to another friend. She'll go out and talk to you. The whole of it was really, really spooky. I mean, like I said, I was pulling my feet back onto the bed. I was tensing up. It was really spooky. Like, there was one night where I was actually tossing and turning all night long. And I would wake up with a feeling that there was somebody in my room with me. And so, it's a really, really spooky and really good book. The thing is that I'm not going to say that the ending was bad. I'm just going to say, like, the last 1/8 of the book, it didn't feel as intense and wonderful as the first 3/4 of the book. I was not necessarily satisfied with the ending, but again, it wasn't a bad ending. I do believe this is his first novel, but I would definitely read more of his books. I mean, this is the kind of like delicious horror that you want to read in October that freaks you out, and has you jumping at shadows in your room at night, making sure your door is closed so you can hear if something opens the door. It was a really good book. So definitely recommend. It wasn't that long, so it's a good read for spooky season. You should pick it up. But thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe below.